Solo writer reveals 4 scenes conceived by Phil Lord and Chris Miller that made the final cut. That is the headline of this week's Force Friday show. And joining me as ever is Stephen to discuss all things Star Wars. What the hell do you make of this one, Stephen? Because that was quite a big thing before the release of So A Star Wars Story. Would we notice the creative flourishes of Phil Lord and Chris Miller? Would we know which was Ron Howard's scenes, what parts were their scenes? I've got to tell you, I didn't know watching the film. Some people says they did. They've also got better eyes for film than I have, because I didn't. But this is very intriguing. We get to see some of the things they envisaged up and some of the scenes that they maybe filmed and were left in.
Well, firstly, John, we knew that some of their scenes were going to be left in.
Yeah.
They did say that. They didn't actually specify which scenes, but it is now revealed, and this is coming in from the wrap.com, and it does a little breakdown of those scenes. We've since read the article,
Yes.
and I think we're probably 50% glad of the 4 scenes anyway. 2 of them we did agree that they were needed. They were very impressive. First one being, of course, the speeder chase at the very beginning. This kind of shows his Han's capabilities as a pilot, as a driver, and as a character as well. In that early sort of chase scene, I thought it was quite impressive. We've seen that actually. I think it was one of the first scenes we've seen in the trailer as well. And I'm glad to see that they're getting some recognition. We knew they would. I think they got credited as producers for the movie anyway for their input, and certainly for these scenes as well.
Yeah, Stephen, I've got to be honest with you, I'm not too surprised that chase scene at the beginning of the film was one of Lord and Miller's scenes, because I do recall in the lead up to the release of So A Star Wars Story, I keep talking about the lead up to this film, but there's some reason, and the reason is that they says that Ron Howard was using almost half sets. He was reducing the size of the sets for much of the work he was filming. So you're not going to be doing a half set for a intricate chase scene through an industrial planet. Well, it's Corellia. I think it's well established. It's Corellia. Just say it's Corellia, John. It's Corellia. It's an industrial planet, though. It's an Imperial-held planet, and it's a big and complicated chase scene through it. So I'm not surprised it was their scene, and I'm much like he says, I'm very pleased that it was left in, which is going to be a continuing theme through this discussion on this topic anyway, because it brought some much needed va-va-vu, Miss Thierry said back in the day, to the early stage of this film. Because I do recall, after some early critic reviews came in, before we got the chance to go and see it, a lot of people were saying the opening 30, 35, 40 minutes of this film was quite slow and turgid in its pacing. I certainly didn't get that when I went to see the film, and much of that was because of this early sequence, this chase sequence. And as you did say, it gave us a chance to see Han's ability. We already knew what his ability was, but the younger Han's ability to drive in very tight and windy streets with someone on his tail. So I thoroughly enjoyed that scene, and I'm glad it made the final film, and I'm glad that the Lord and Miller are getting much needed recognition, because this is as much their film as Ron Howard's. The next scene, incidentally, that they worked on, that remained in the film, I don't know if it was the entirety of the scene or whether it had been reworked to some degree, but it was the meeting of Han and Chewbacca in the film, which was apparently largely crafted by Lord and Miller, this article says, which is also a very memorable scene for me anyway, one of the good moments in the film. And there was a few good moments, I'm being a bit harsh here, but just seeing them, this big towering beast, and we knew it was Chewbacca, I knew anyway, covered in mud, and he's beating the shit out of Han at the start. Then he starts talking in Shiriwik, which is the first time I believe a human character is spoken that language. Usually just got the growls from Chewie or another Wookiee, and then the replies showing that they know what he's talking about. But that was cool. Really glad that stayed in as well. It showed the origins of these two, this dynamic duo that went through all the things we got to see in the later stages of their lives in the original trilogy and beyond.
Yeah, out with the Wookiees, John, I think is the only being, not just human, but yeah, I mean, this is a great scene as well. It's one of those standout scenes. We always wondered how these two characters came to be, how they became friends, and it's interesting to see it all started off with a fight, and it could have turned very nasty if Han didn't really think on his feet. But it's a good scene. I like it. I like the way they escape from that sort of underground cell as well, and also the introduction to Chewbacca as well. We don't see him at first. We hear that growl of his first, and then he comes out of the darkness, and then we see him, as you said, he's covered in mud, and he just makes a beeline for Han. But it also highlights the bad treatment for the Wookiees as well, in regards to the Empire and how they treat them as slaves, basically. So it was nice to see Han having that sort of character about him that you didn't see in A New Hope. He was very such the mercenary in A New Hope until the last 10 minutes of the film. You see that side to him here, that he has got compassion, and it was a good scene. It was a good setup. I felt that Lord and Miller. I'm glad that they kept this one in, because it's an important scene for Star Wars canon as well. That, you know, it was one of those meetings that we always wondered how it came about, very much like how Han met Lando as well. And that's what we're going to talk about next. It's the next scene. It's actually Lando's droid L3. They worked alongside Lawrence Kasdan, which I'm surprised about. I didn't think Lawrence Kasdan would go for this kind of character. This is one of the characters that's kind of split the Star Wars fandom. A lot of people don't like the character, felt the character was a bit obnoxious, and also the relationship this had with Lando as well was a bit disturbing. Yeah. Also, it kind of annoys me as well that the presence of this droid as well is within the software of the Millennium Falcon. C-3PO refers at some point, I think The Empire Strikes Back, that this the computer within the ship is speaking some weird dialect or something. I can't remember, I'm paraphrasing, but that's obviously a reference to L3 as well. I don't know how you felt about that character, but this is one of these characters I felt wasn't really needed. It wasn't on par with K2SO. I felt that character was more fleshed out, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's because Alan Tudyk wasn't involved. That guy's just got a way with animated characters, and he just brought that character to life. He imbued it with some amazing personality. It was funny. The character of L3, I felt like they tried to go down the same route, but I just didn't connect with the voice actor. She had a very grating voice. It felt like Gwendolyn Christie's Captain Phasma had been possessing this droid, and then it was just going on about the whole equal right pansexuality stuff, which I'm not against by any means, definitely not, but do you need it in a Star Wars film? I would argue you don't. But yeah, they're credited with developing this droid, and I find it interesting what they say in the article that Kasdan says that in these extremely divisive and politically charged times, that he did notice that it was a polarising character. And he also says that L3 was essentially born by Miller, noting the anti-droid prejudice from the original film in the cantina, where the bartender also says we don't serve their kind here, one of the least violent kind in the galaxy. So that was where it was born, that prejudice. And I do find it interesting. I actually was watching Jedi Council last week, and Ken Natsok actually made a very interesting thing that I didn't pick up on originally. That Lando, the whole pansexuality thing, it was also very controversial when the film released, but when you look at Empire Strikes Back, and you see that he really has devoted himself with being around droids and really helping them become integrated into society. The likes of Lobo as his right-hand man, kind of an android type figure. So it was always there, that affinity with droids and stuff, so that was very intriguing. I did pick up on that. But we're going to move on to the fourth and final scene that they were involved in, Stephen, and it's the kissing scene between Han and Kira in Lando's cake closet on, of course, the Millennium Falcon, which was broken up by Beckett. And again, you see those parallels and the symmetry that we've been speaking about in previous Force Friday shows. That's obviously a parallel on Han and Leia's moment in Empire Strikes Back.
I don't remember this scene, John. I've only seen the movie once, and I don't really recall it, I've got to be honest with you. But in that description, yes, it's the old George Lucas, poetry and scenes, that are symmetrical to the storytelling and stuff like that. It's one of those scenes that, it didn't have to be in there, to be honest with you. It wouldn't have really changed matters. We knew the relationship between Han and Kira very early on. That was established very early on in the movie. And then the relationship changed, obviously, when they reunited. And then as the the story unfolds, Kira's a different woman to the one that we were introduced at the very beginning of the movie, specifically in those scenes with Darth Maul. We know what she's all about at that point. But this scene, it was I suppose it's a nice little callback to The Empire Strikes Back with Han and Leia. The only thing that really bugs me about that is it kind of makes Han look like a bit of an ass, really. You know, that he's now, acting out his emotions to another woman later on in his life, and it doesn't appear as sincere, as it originally was. That's the only thing I can really take out of it. So, in that sense, it probably is a scene that they could have just left on the cutting room floor. Yeah, I can't really argue with that, Stephen. We did say that we liked most of the scenes that were remained in the film, but yeah, there was no real purpose for this scene. They could have took it out and it wouldn't have affected the flow of the film in any way. I feel like they were probably just trying to throw that in to show, look, we'll still get parallels to all the other films, because that's a prevailing theme throughout most of the Star Wars films. But yeah, I digress. We're going to move on to the next topic. It's all about Greg Grunberg reuniting with J.J. Abrams once again for Star Wars Episode 9. Of course, he was in The Force Awakens. I can't remember what his character's name was called in it. Oh, there you go, Snap Wexley. That's the character's name. I just read it off the article. How very lazy of me. But yes, he's seen as a bit of a lucky charm for J.J. Abrams, and he's back again, Stephen. Yeah, he appeared in Lost as well. That's the only other role I can remember Grunberg being involved in with J.J. Abrams. But it's like most directors, they do like to bring back people they know. I don't know if it's like a comfort blanket thing to them or whatever. A lot of them do it. I don't know what his role will be. I think he did have some kind of... I don't know if he just disappeared at the end of the film or if he met his end. I don't know, but...
I don't think they ever showed the death, Steve.
No, and even if they did, I mean, they could bring back the actor to play an alien or whatever. It doesn't really matter, does it? I've done that in the past with the likes of Jeremy Bullock and stuff like that, who played Boba Fett. He played another role in Return of the Jedi as one of the Imperial officers, so that kind of thing happens quite a bit in Star Wars. And I don't know really too much about the chap's film history or anything like that, but he is a good friend of J.J. Abrams, and I do remember his character in The Force Awakens because he did remind me of the character from A New Hope, Porkins. And that's got nothing to do with the guy's weight or anything like that. It was just that sort of reminiscence about him in that orange boiler suit and the beard as well. So that I think that's what reminded me of him. But you've just checked out IMDb there, and by all accounts he is coming back to play the same character, John. So he must have survived the events of The Force Awakens.
Yeah, I've not got much issue with that, Stephen. You can have a bit of retconning in any film, and certainly Star Wars, because I don't believe we've seen his death. As you did say, very reminiscent of the original trilogy's Porkins, and I think it is because of his weight. I'm not going to lie. He's on the chubby side, on the rotund side of things. Certainly for an ace, but on the pokey side, certainly for an ace pilot. And it's clear this is the modern day version of Porkins. Porkins met a verified in A New Hope. There was no doubt he died. He was turned into roast pork. You're quite right, Stephen. But listen, it's a short little news topic. It's a snippet of news. He's coming on board again. He's playing Snap Wexley again, apparently. And he's worked with JJ in the likes of Felicity, Alias and Lost. So this is the guy that's followed him throughout his career. He's seen as a bit of a lucky charm, as I did say, much like Clint Howard with Ron Howard and a whole host of other things. You've got Adam Sandler and his whole brood of actors that he returns to again and again and again. But I cannot wait to see this film. I can't wait to see how much of a role he's going to have. Certainly they need all the pilots I can get their hands on, because Poe nearly wiped out the whole fleet in one daring move, which of course he gets slapped down for by Admiral Holdo and General Leia. Don't know why, because he destroyed a massive big ship, but hey ho. But we're going to move on to the next topic, Stephen, and it's all about Sam Witwer, the voice actor of Darth Maul, of course, in the Clone Wars and Rebels, discussing his return to the galaxy with a Star Wars story. We've got a little bit of symmetry ourselves here, Stephen, because last week we spoke about Ray Parks returning to the character. He did the physical appearance. Good old Sam Witwer here, the man that can voice just about every Star Wars character in the history, and a man with an incredible knowledge on Star Wars. This guy is like a walking, talking holocron of all things Star Wars. He did the voice acting, so great article, by the way. I love the guy.
Yeah, John, as you said, he's a talented actor, a voice actor, predominantly in the animated series as well. He voiced quite a few of the characters in that, and it was nice to see him return, not to this role in the live action, as we know. In The Phantom Menace, it was Peter Serafinowicz. I think that's how you pronounce the chap's name. I certainly know him from Alan Partridge as Tex.
Yes, Tex.
And I think he was also Sean's roommate in Shaun of the Dead. He's a terrific actor. He's got a great voice as well. But Sam Witwer, he mimics that voice perfectly in Solo, A Star Wars Story. Certainly in the animated series as well. You wouldn't notice the change in actor. But it's a very in-depth question and answers article that's on slashfilm.com, and really I don't really obviously want to go down the road of reading out word for word this article, but it really is just the enthusiasm from the actor coming back to play this role, and especially this chance to play him in live action as well. It was very interesting to read. He's got such passion for Star Wars. We saw him in a variety of YouTube shows as well that he's very familiar with. He's a kind of how can I put this? Ray Park has got the energy, the physical energy of Darth Maul. Sam Witwer has certainly got the mental energy of the character down to a T as well. Some of those lines that he delivered in the movie, which was very brief, we know, and it's very interesting to see this article, which is very long and winded, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. It's a very detailed interview, but for such a very small role, it's a very detailed and very long article that it really delves into how he gets into the frame of mind to play Maul, and where he sees the character going after this, where he's been for all those years, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been reading through the article again, Stephen, as you were talking, and it's just great hearing the guy's passion for Star Wars. It just seeps out of every pore in the man's body, and you look, he's talking about how he discovered that Maul Baby coming back into the fray in this film. And he says it was his good friend Matt Wood, who of course voiced General Grievous, who dropped a hint to him, but he didn't believe him at first. He thought he was setting him up for a fall. He says his exact words, watching me bleed happy tears. He says, I don't know, strange moment. But yeah, it was great seeing how his excitement once he realised it was happening. And just again, getting through the process of how they manufactured this fairly short cameo scene. How he went in and did all the voice work. Then they get Ray Parks in to do his filming. He lip-synced it. But then he had to come back in again and redo some of the voice work again, because they had to allow a certain bit of freedom to Ray Parks. And also the scene itself. So that was great, seeing an insight into how they crafted this. I always love that about Star Wars, the complexities to it all, even a short 20-30 second cameo. And then also it then goes through just what the character's introduction meant, and a grander scale to the character of Kira, and obviously Han as well. How Kira realised she would have to go down this dark path, that she was unredeemable after that she would be thrusting herself into this criminal underworld with Darth Maul, a primary figure in it all, and just how she had to steer herself away from Han, who she knew would follow him down that rabbit hole no matter what. So that was great, him discussing just the wider impact of the character in the film. Even though it was a short cameo, his presence was felt throughout the film. We thought it was Ryden Voss who was the primary antagonist, but it turns out he was just a puppet getting played by the higher up figure of Darth Maul. And then finally he goes on to discuss in this article, Stephen, all about the appreciation and the overwhelming positivity that he has received from fans from around all the conventions following his short cameo, because they knew he'd done the voice work. So all in all, I'm giving it on here, but it was a great article, again, showcasing this man's knowledge, his appreciation of Star Wars, and I'm just glad to see he's been once again called upon to come back in and do some voice work and lend his talents to this magnificent franchise.
I think Lucasfilm have rewarded the chap for his years of service, John. You've got to remember, this guy started, in particular with Star Wars, doing some voice work in those early games in the early 2000s, the Force Unleashed games.
Yes.
I think he did maybe some of the Lego Star Wars ones as well. But obviously his introduction on a more sort of full-time basis was in the Clone Wars from, I think, 2011 to maybe a couple of years later. And when you look at, he voiced obviously Darth Maul in that series, but he did a lot of other sort of sub-characters as well, just to sort of really flex those talents of his and the different voices and the different tones that he can do. And it was good to see him coming back. I know he did some Battlefront stuff as well in the video games, but it was good to see him coming back to the animated series Rebels, which he was in for 3 years, playing Maul. I'm not sure if he did any other sort of standout performances in that, but it was good to see him coming back to that as well. And as I said, I think this is Lucasfilm just rewarding for his years of service, basically. I think it's due, and I think if perhaps they may be going down the road to doing some form of Darth Maul television series or a standalone movie, whatever it may be, I think down the line, more realistically, it would be a TV series at this stage with all the upcoming sequels and trilogies and stuff that's going to be coming out. I think it's more realistic it would be a television series. This is the guy they'll go to.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to move on though to the next topic. It's all about Attack of the Killer Jedi. Apparently this is the Guardian headline, the bizarre story of Turkish Star Wars. And what a bizarre story it is, Steve. It's all about 1982 Turkish filmmaker with a budget crisis coming up with an ingenious solution for his science fiction epic, i.e. stealing some footage from George Lucas's classic. And indeed, I think he steals footage from a whole host of other films like Flash Gordon and stuff like that. The film itself is called The Man Who Saves the World. The film that is generally better known as a Turkish Star Wars, or as Turkish Star Wars. I can't believe this, but I'm reading this and I'm getting taken into a parallel universe. It sounds utterly bizarre. I'd love to get a bash at watching this. Apparently it had a $300,000 budget back in 1982. My God, inflation, that must have been well over $1 million, $2 million now. How the hell did this guy have a budget crisis, man? Look what George Lucas crafted Star Wars with. He was creating the Death Star off ping pong tables, and this guy had to resort to stealing scenes from Star Wars with $300,000. Mental, man. But then you look at the stuff and it's crazy.
I don't know what the legal implications for this were for John, but listen, if it was good enough for the Jim Henson's Muppet Babies, it's certainly good for this film. Perhaps maybe George Lucas saw this in a way to make the holiday special look better. I don't know. But I did laugh at that quote in regards to the two Turkish pilots, I think it was. One of them reminded this person that wrote this review looked like Ronnie Wood in a Thriller jacket. I can just imagine that, yes. Being 1982 and all that, and the fashion at that time. Also the quote about the brightly coloured felt monsters.
We mustn't forget those felt monsters, Stephen. The chassis sounds like something all the way out of a Star Trek original series episode. Yeah,
they actually do say, these monsters slaughter terrified children in a sequence that suggests a massacre by the cast of Sesame Street. So it's a really funny article, just highlighting this movie that certainly did go under the radar. I'd never heard of this. No. It certainly wasn't trying to be a spoof of Star Wars in any way. It was certainly just ripping off certain scenes to fill in the sort of special effects that they certainly couldn't afford, clearly. And it's certainly not a Spaceballs or anything like that, the Mel Brooks film, which was just a clear parody of Star Wars. But the article itself, it goes on to say there's other Star Wars rip-offs, that appear, numerous Ewoks and stuff like that. It's one of the films, I'd like to see. I don't mind admitting that, John. I'd just like to see it out of curiosity, just to see how bad it is, and just really to see how they interslice those Lucasfilm scenes in with their film, and just see how notable it is. It clearly is notable because we're big Star Wars films and we certainly would pick out these scenes anyway. But it's an interesting article. It's certainly something I'd never heard of. The film's called, what was it called?
The Man Who Saves the World.
The Man Who Saves the World. Sounds like a David Bowie song, but it's just one of those articles that I thought was quite interesting. I was certainly around in 1982. I didn't hear of this, but trying to get a copy of this might be hard to come by, I think. You might find it somewhere lurking in the internet somewhere, but I certainly would like to get my hands on it just to see what it was like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'd laugh my head off from start to finish, Stephen. I'm just looking through some of the plot pieces, and it says that we've got them in leather motorcycle helmets, ducking and diving like they're in the middle of intergalactic conflict, and we see the Millennium Falcon whizzing past and the Death Star up the back. But the foreground figure remains unchanged. So that sounds crazy to me. We've got platoons of mummies and giant teddy bears with tinsel hanging from its claws, and we've got wizards and all sorts going on here. I've read something about a red Yeti. So there's a whole host of things going on here, but they do say it's got a bit of charm to it. It's cheekily brazen. And at the end it even says that it could be an inspirational lesson to filmmakers everywhere, that sometimes you have to aim above your means because the results can be incredible. This must be have some degree of charm to it then, Stephen. It must have something that makes it redeeming, because we've got people going out their way to re-release it. Apparently there was a 35mm distribution at one point, so someone's held onto a copy and they've made sure it's been re-released, so it must be semi-decent for some reason.
They've attached a movie poster as well to the article, John.
It looks crazy.
It does. This is the original poster for Turkish Star Wars, photographed by Ed Glazer.
There's the red Yeti there, Stephen.
And yeah, I mean, it doesn't really suggest anything galactic about the actual poster. It just looks like a man doing a high kick in the desert.
Looks like Luke Skywalker doing a Hitler.
Yeah,
Nazi walk,
John Cleese, yeah.
Yeah, John Cleese.
But yeah, it's one of those ones I'd like to just get my hands on, just to see what it was, how bad it was, or how, some films are that bad they're good,
Yeah, it's funny you should mention John Cleese. I could completely imagine Monty Python involved in something like this. This sounds like a Monty Python sketch, the Ministry of Funny Walks and all that jazz. But we're going to move on to the final topic in this week's Force Friday show, and it's all about Rogue One's great temple getting the poster treatment. My God, the posters are very nice indeed. We see, I believe it's Kylo Ren's ship. I don't know where it's coming up or down, but we see that amazing temple that's on Yavin 4. In the background we've got two, one in black and white and one with an orange, well, I wouldn't say sunset because I think it's perpetually orange because of the gas giant up in the sky. But it's just stunning, and it kind of adds into what we were saying before we came on, Stephen, that we'd love to see more being done with this. I've not read into the comic books where obviously Poe was born on Yavin 4, but I loved that about the original Expanded Universe books. I recall reading one about Exar Kun, a powerful Sith Lord who became trapped there in spiritual form. He was wreaking havoc. We've got stories like that surrounding this planet. I'd love to see more being done to flesh this out, because it's a very interesting location.
What I see from the movie poster is it does look like Kylo Ren's ship, this, which suggests to me that this is where the rumour has came about that Yavin 4 is going to appear in episode 9. Certainly with the tie-backs to Poe Dameron's heritage and his history with this place as well. Certainly with the history that Star Wars has with this place, and it takes me back to 1977 when we were first introduced to this location. It certainly at the time made me wonder what these temples were for originally. Certainly they must have had some religious aspect to them, John, maybe a time when the Sith and the Jedi were at battle, a millennium ago or whatever, and I would like to see these temples feature more in future Star Wars films that are set in the past, because all we know from these are that they're rebel bases, and certainly from this, these posters, I know it says down there Star Wars Rogue One, so it kind of suggests to me that there might have been early storyboards that were perhaps going to be used in some fashion. Perhaps maybe Krennic was going to appear in these scenes on Yavin 4 at some point, but they're very interesting nevertheless. They're beautifully drawn as well, or painted. I don't know what they are, but they're very visually striking. I like the fact that you're seeing not just the one temple, you see another one in the background, so it gives you a kind of idea of the landscape of this area as well, and they're very interesting.
Yeah, certainly are, Stephen. I wouldn't put it past George Lucas just putting them in there as a nod to obviously the South American culture, the main culture, who had similar temples in the middle of wooded jungles, the Aztecs as well. So I wouldn't put it past them just throwing it in there as to have a bit of exoticness and a new setting in Star Wars. I don't think he thought very much about these things. Certainly not to the degree that they're all fleshed out now and everything has to interconnect and have a meaning. But certainly a very cool planet, and I'd love to see it coming back in a Star Wars film in the future, be it in the future or in the past. But I digress. that is the end of this week's Force Friday show, where we do discuss all things Star Wars. We'd just like to thank you for listening to us once again, and we'll be back next Tuesday with Box Office Chat.
Remember guys, if you enjoyed that episode, then do hit that like button, comment below, and maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. If you want to follow us on social media for all the latest updates from Movie Burner Entertainment, then we can be found on Twitter and Facebook at Movie Burners. You can also listen to us on Google Play and iTunes at the Movie Burner Podcast. And last but not least, if you want to access all the latest written reviews and the occasional article, then that can be found on our website at movieburnerentertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.